So just want to introduce myself. My name is Abby Fullock. For those of you who are not part of Hardenherish School, I am a teaching assistant, but in a previous life, I was an IT trainer. So I used to sort of delivering training to people and been working as a TA for the last 3 years in both primary school and at secondary school. So a bit of a wide range of different things that we've done. That I've done, sorry. Got Mr. Cobbold here with us as well, Ben Cobbold, who's our EdTech guru, organising genius person.
Yeah,
Ben,
I don't think we call it that. I don't think we call it that. Right. Well, thank you very much, Abby, for running this session for us. I thought I'd just do a quick introduction to us as a school before you sort of kick off. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. It's a great turnout for today. And, you know, obviously, there's other sessions that we put on as well, and just kind of keep your ear to the ground. There's going to be more coming as well. So we're an EdTech demonstrator school, which means we get funding to put on things like this, and it's all for free, and it doesn't stop here. So when Abby's finished kind of going through today's session, actually, if any of you are interested in further sessions or further support for your school, all your school needs to do is fill in a form. It's easy, non-committal, and then basically that means that it opens us up to be able to support you for weeks to come in all sorts of ways, for teachers, training, and for TAs, and even beyond that. So I won't interrupt any more of Abby's great session because I know it's time to perfection. So I'm going to sink into the background now.
Okay.
You won't hear any more of me. I'll try and do a bit of admitting, by the way, Abby, so that you don't.
Oh, if you don't mind, that'd be really handy. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Okay, guys, so we have until about 4 o'clock today, and I'm hoping that the session won't take that entire time, so it gives us some time for questions at the end. I am going to run it quite like a training session, so it'll be more of a me delivering, but I am happy for hands up, or if people need anything in particular at a certain point, please do say, don't wait to the end. I'm happy for it to be a bit interactive, but conscious of time. And also just to remind everybody, we are recording, so just be aware of that too. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? I've broken it down into 3 key areas. The first one being actually engaging with the TA. So I'm assuming most of you are in your job roles in a TA or a supportive role. So this is how you can be engaging in your classroom and your live lesson, and things that you can do with the teacher to help support them. Also going to look at breakout rooms, going to talk through how they work, and then also move on to the accessibility tools, because generally our role is supporting students and making sure they can access learning. And so the accessibility tools are really going to build into that. And if you understand how they work, you can then help the students understand how they're going to use them. Okay, so first off, make the TA part of the class. Now, invite us, please. So if you are finding that you're sitting there going, well, I know there's a live lesson going on, but I'm not part of it, ask the teacher to invite you. It'll depend a little bit on your school setup and how the classes are done, but generally the TAs aren't part of the class, it's just the students. So ask them to send you the calendar invite, make sure they're including you. That's job number 1. Then once you have been invited and you're in that room, please make sure they set you as a presenter. Really easy to do that. They just click on your name and you'll be an attendee, and all they do is change it to make a presenter. The reason we do that is that then the TA can do things like Ben's doing for me right now, is admitting people into the lobby. The lobby just allows the students to sit there waiting for the teacher to let them in. Well, the TA can do that while the teacher starts the class. Other things as a presenter is you can share your screen. We'll talk about that a bit more for breakout rooms. And when you're sharing your screen, you can demonstrate work, you can share your whiteboard, other things like that. So it's really handy for the TA to be a presenter rather than being an attendee. Okay. Other things. Ask the teacher to involve you as if you were in the class. Now, when I'm working, I've got a lot of English lessons that I'm part of. The teacher will give a question, something like, teacher will maybe say, oh, is this a noun or a verb? And the class sort of sits there silently. Oh, Mrs. Bullock, could you help us, please? Oh, yeah, I think it's this. So sounds really silly, but even just putting your hand, using the little raise hand feature, you'll see on your toolbar, you've got the little raise hand. Even if you do that, it'll prompt other students and they'll go, oh yeah, well, if Miss is doing it, maybe I should try. Or you might type your response in the chat and go, oh, actually, I've seen Miss replying, and then it helps the teacher keep that lesson going. There's nothing worse, and I'm sure you've all experienced it. The teacher asks a question and then there's just nothing. And you all just sit there waiting, a little embarrassed. So just be prepared to be quite active with that as well. Okay, what else can we do? This is a really lovely example. Mr. Skirrow is one of our English teachers. He put a question up and the answers could either be A, B or C. So 30 students in the class, we don't actually want 30 messages popping up, 30 hands being raised, 30 voices coming at us. So what he does, or what I can do as well, or the TA can do, is type the letter A, enter, B, enter, C, enter into the chat. And then all the students do is take their mouse, hover over or click on one of those letters, and then they choose the emoji little response. So we'd say, put your thumbs up if you think it's A, thumbs up if it's B, thumbs up if it's C. And it's a brilliant way just to capture student response. So I've got 30 students. I can see in that example, only 3 have replied. And so we can go, guys, come on, 17 more of you, 27 more of you. You know, we're expecting a few more answers, please. Partly it helps with student engagement. They can't just switch off and go, oh, yeah, I don't have to pay any attention. But also, we're not asking a lot of them. We're not saying type your answer or give me a full response. It's just a little, where do you think you are? Okay. When you take your mouse and hover over the tick, the thumbs up with a 3, it actually tells you the names. So you can say, oh yeah, I can see James has got it right, Sue's got it right. So that kind of thing is really helpful. Just building on that idea then about getting students to engage is what also another thing Mr. Skirrow does. He types wait question and then puts the full question in. So this example is, how does the poet describe something in the poem? He didn't want us all to answer immediately. What he said was, this is a wait question. So types a question in, reads it aloud, and what this does, it allows those students who might be either slightly slower processing or just needs an extra few moments to think of their answer, they can type it. And you'll have seen yourself on messages before, you get the little ... like, you know, Mrs. Fullock is typing ... So you can see the names of the kids who are typing. And then he'll go 3, 2, 1, enter. And then suddenly then all the answers come through. So that's really, really handy because it means you're going to get a whole load of answers all together, keeps it all together and allows people time to think of their response if they're just going to need a little bit longer. Again, it's something you can be involved in. Okay, got a few more things on this slide. This one is broken into a few different parts. So this is all some really good feedback we've had from the Hard and Hewish TAs. Thank you, the TAs who've given us these bits of feedback so far. I want you to have a look at the top image, please. Top image says upload from my computer. What I did was hovered over the little paperclip icon. And the reason I've got this in there is in your messages, you're able to put files, images, information, links, anything at all can go in the chat message feature within Teams. So when you open up messages, look at the bottom, you'll see that little icon, that little paperclip, and you could upload something that you've got saved. Really helpful if it's a booklet or a worksheet, something to fill in. In the next box, I've written copy and paste. You can literally copy and paste stuff as well. So we use show my homework, and a lot of teachers will put information there. So like complete these 3 tasks. Well, you can copy that, paste it into the chat. Everybody's got it together. Really easy. The next little icon, the next little image is meant to be Windows, Shift and S. That's the shortcut key for doing a screenshot. We call it snipping tool as well. And you'll see I put a little maths example there. I'll say thank you to Mr. Smith in our maths department for that one. So he did a lovely example in the lesson, then moved on to give some questions. But of course, we couldn't see the example anymore. So did a screenshot, copied that, and that copies the example, pasted that into the messaging so the teacher can carry on delivering the lesson, the students have an example next to it, and we keep things flowing. So they're essentially like little assistive tools, little things that can just boost engagement, boost the support without people necessarily having to say, oh, Miss, I don't get it, or Sir, I'm not sure. It allows them to, have more things accessible to them. So on that note, we've got one more thing on this particular slide, and this is the actual chat feature. So in Teams, chat, in our live lesson, everybody can see everything. And you'll find, we just did a maths lesson, it was going on forever, all these messages backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Well, what you can do is minimize your live lesson. So you're still in it, you can hear it. But then when you go to Teams, you can then use the chat feature that's in Teams. So I don't think my mouse works while I'm hovering over it, but I've just taken a little screenshot of the chat part of Teams itself. And there you can actually do a one-to-one chat with an individual student. So if there's someone in your group that you know might need a bit more support, you can just pop them their own message. It's not in the live lesson, it's not seen by other people, but it means at least you can give some support. And quite a few of us are doing that already. Obviously, it's on Teams, everything is recorded, it's all about the lesson, so that's fine. When I say recorded, I mean the chat messaging is kept on your systems. So that's a really handy way without having to flag an individual or without having to share with the whole class that somebody needs some extra support. So those tips there are the really top ones you can just start using tomorrow. Ask to be invited, make sure you're a presenter, and then use some of those tips in the messaging. Okay, what else can we do? Breakout rooms. Actually, just before we do move on to breakout rooms, I'll just take a quick pause, see if anybody did have any questions. I'm just checking on the messaging. Oh, thank you, Ben. Thank you for the nice tip. Just checking if anybody does want to ask anything about those things, feel free to stick your hand up. That's all right. So breakout room. Oh, hand up. Yes, Steve. Hello.
When you go to the chat thing to set up just you and a pupil, how do you set it up so that it is just you and them, please?
Oh yeah, no problem at all. That's a good question. Unfortunately, my screenshot probably didn't show it very clearly. On the left-hand side in Teams, activity is your top item, and the second item is chat there. So it's just the second one down. And then when you open that up, you get there's two little icons. One is a funnel, which looks like a filter, which is to filter to choose something. And the other one is just a little square with a star on it. And that's a new chat. So when you click on that, so you'll choose the chat, which is a second down on the left. You'll then choose a little square, which is not showing, unfortunately, which is a new chat. And then you just type the person's name in. And then away you go, because it means it only goes to that one person directly. Hope that's okay. Thank you very much. So, breakout room. Oh, Steve, you have another question?
So when you do that as a presenter, the chat is just you and them.
Absolutely. It's a one-to-one.
They can see what you write and you can see what they write.
Yeah, I did that the other day in a DT lesson because somebody wasn't sure, they didn't have some resources and they weren't sure how to ask should they have resources or not. And I messaged them back going, oh, we can do things online. And we had a private conversation about the schoolwork that we were doing, but it wasn't part of the whole class. Okay. Happy, obviously, Steve is a part of Hard and Here. We're happy to have a practice tomorrow if you need. That's fine. So moving on to breakout rooms. Key things here, I've put down some bullet points. The organizer sets them up. That's I guess the teacher that creates the live lesson. It's the organizer that does it. Even as a presenter, you don't have the ability to change anything on your screen and do create the breakout rooms. So it is the teacher that does the setting up. Linked to that then, the TA must be set as a presenter. We've already talked about that before the room starts. That means you can share your screen, you can create a whiteboard, you can record, all those sorts of things. And the other thing to remember with a breakout room, it is in essence a brand new meeting. It's a brand new class. And the way I describe it to people is imagine you're physically leaving the classroom, going to another place to do the learning, coming back in then to the main classroom again. So just think of it in that way. So don't worry about how you set them up. That's the teacher's responsibility. We have got other training on that we can provide. We've done some videos on that too. However, key thing is when the breakout room happens, you automatically get moved into it. Any students that are coming in obviously get moved into it. And then what we'd like you to do, what you should be doing is to set the record. So at the top of your toolbar, you get the three little dots. You come all the way down to the bottom and you choose start recording. It's just helpful to do. We record all our live lessons. So you would do that in the breakout room as well. Next thing, how are you going to start sharing? Well, you need to look for that little arrow with the sort of square on it. That's the share icon. If you look on your screens now, you probably will have it, but it'll be grayed out because I'm the presenter today, the Miss Cobbold. So you probably won't be able to use that in this live lesson right now. And then the choices you get are here. So it's a little bit blurry. It was smaller and I've made it a bit bigger. So a couple of really handy things when you're sharing is you can actually share your desktop. Your desktop is everything that you've got open. If it's emails, school systems, whatever you have open. And that's really handy if you need to go and demonstrate something in YouTube, open Seneca, look at a worksheet, and you're moving between a few different things. Word of warning, just be cautious. If you do have school systems open and you click on them, they will then be visible to others. So just bear that in mind. The next little group in the middle is called window. That window is just the one thing that you want to look at. So it could be one PowerPoint, one Word document, even an email, just one email, and it will only share that with the group. The issue you have with that, though, is you do lose some of the ability to see what's going on in the Teams call because your entire window then gets taken over with that. It's fine, the team call is still going on, but just bear in mind that you're just going to see your own window. You don't see the chat at the same time. But then you've also got this other group here called PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint group just says, show my PowerPoint, as it could be you're carrying on something that the teacher's been delivering and you want to show the next part of it. And then you see all the things going on in the Teams call, and the PowerPoint's displayed as well. Now, if you want to have a look on the top of your own screen at the moment, you should see some arrows saying 5 of 12. Those are the arrows that let you move through the slides of the PowerPoint. You can actually use those now if you want to. It won't change what I display because I'm the presenter, but you can now navigate through and see other slides. That's really handy tip for students too, because if they've forgotten something the teacher said, they can go back. What was on slide 1 again? Or what's the next activity because I've already finished? They can move through the slides without interrupting the teacher. Teacher can turn this off though. There's a little icon we can stop them doing that, but it's a handy thing to be able to do. 2 more things I want to talk about here though is I've got another thing that just says include computer sound. It's not super clear, but it's just on the top left of that little image. That's what you need to click when you're including sound for perhaps a video, some audio that you might need, especially if it's a YouTube video. So make sure that's chosen. That will allow sound to be played. And one more thing is not on my image here is the whiteboard. So the whiteboard is another really good tool, and essentially it's just the normal whiteboard you'd have on your device. We're lucky we've got tablets that have got these pens, these like touchscreen pens, so we can use those when we're writing. Whiteboard does actually have a text box feature. So if you find writing on the screen tricky, because it's not always very clear, it does have a text box feature. So we've used that again in English lessons. We said, oh, can we share ideas, please? I'll type the ideas up and they'll be on the whiteboard. So the reason that breakout rooms can be so handy is that you don't have to be sharing things with everyone in the whole class. It can be a small group situation, which is really useful. You can target just the things that you need to look at with particular students, but remember the teacher sets it up. Now, when you go back and you leave your breakout room, that's absolutely fine. The breakout room, you'll go back to the main room again. Just be aware you might be put back in the lobby. So for our classes, they're always set up. The teacher runs the live lesson, and there is a lobby that the students wait in. If you choose to leave your breakout room, then you'll go back to the lobby and you'll need the teacher to re-admit you. If the teacher closes the breakout room, you all just come back together. So you can say to students, oh, we're going to be closing it. The teacher's closing it now. You'll see a message coming up saying returning to main room, and then you won't be in the lobby. So just be cautious of those 2 different things that can happen. If students say, oh, I left and I got lost and I didn't know what happened, just be conscious that's possibly what's going on. Okay, now I'm conscious of the time and I'm aware there's got a lot of us, so I'm not going to try to do a breakout room at the moment. But before I move on, do we have any questions people would like to ask about breakout rooms? Alison, you got your hand up there. How can we help?
Yeah, sorry, Abby. I've still been having issues with actually being able to record when I've been being put into breakout rooms. I know we had a thing the other day that came through that said the teacher needed to come in once they've set it up and set set you up to be able to do that. Is that true, or should it be able to we can just record automatically?
Okay, so I have two possible solutions to that. So one, what Alison was saying is when we've been moved to a breakout room, perhaps some of those presenter options aren't available and we can't press record. So if that is the case, then the teacher can come into the breakout room, press record, leave the breakout room. That's one choice. The other option, actually our setting, what I did today was I joined using the web version of Teams. So normally the desktop version has full capability, everything works perfectly fine, and that's the one you'll see at the bottom on your toolbar. If you go to the start menu, Teams, that's called the desktop version. The web version is if you go in through the school systems, we have SharePoint, and then it opens up as if it's a new web page on the top of your screen. And then when you're in that version of it, the recording does work. So as a little workaround for the moment, the web version is the best way, but it could be it's an internal Hardenhurish thing. So I will go back to IT about that just to double check. But I tested it today and it did work in the web version.
Brilliant. Thank you, Abby.
No worries. That's all right. Okay. All right. So I'll move on to the next thing I want to have a look at, and I'd like to go through some of the accessibility tools. These are absolutely brilliant, and we bang our heads against a brick wall every time we go, oh, I didn't know it was there. Like now we know it's there. So you guys are going to be the ones taking it forward, please. Microsoft has the dictate function available across its suite of products, including Teams, which is amazing. What you need to look for in Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, all those tools is this particular image, this particular icon. It'll be on the main toolbar. When you open up Word, it'll be there. When you open up an email, it'll be there. Really easy to use. When you click on it, you'll hear a little ting sound, a little bell sound. And when you are dictating, the dictate will change and it's got the red record button. You click on it to stop. Simple as that. It's really, really powerful. I actually now don't type emails very often at all. I just dictate them, easy peasy. Like we do on our phones, we use a little the little voice function, exactly the same. Now there is also a shortcut key that you can use if you have Windows 10, which is our school system at the moment, and you just press the Windows key on your keyboard and the letter H. You'll see there a little icon that's appeared. That goes right across the top of the screen. And it's worth pointing out, though, the first time you use it, it will need a little bit of setup. So with the setup, you actually go to the settings, ease of access, and you scroll down that to get into where it's got the speech options. Now, unfortunately, I set mine up so long ago, I don't have any screenshots of what the setup looks like. But on your own computer, you go to settings, ease of access, and when you come down to speech, there'll be that Windows H prompt will be there. So that's something that'd be really handy if you could get your students to use, help them set it up. You'll find it will make such a difference. One boy last week was asked to type up a creative story, and he wrote maybe a line and a half. And I said, well, aren't you using dictate? At the end of the lesson, he'd done 3 huge paragraphs, filled a whole sheet of A4 paper just from dictating it rather than typing it. So it's thinking about what those barriers are, thinking about what those things are that can make things difficult for others. And if we can just make that easier for them, then I really do encourage you to try to use it. Have a play yourself first, obviously, make sure you're comfortable, but then do prompt others to use it. I'm going to talk about how to use it in Teams later on, but I'm just going to go through a few of the other accessibility tools and then we'll pop back into what Teams can do. So next thing I want to show you is the immersive reader. Again, if anybody has seen these before, I do apologise, but it's helpful just to have a little refresh, remind yourselves of what these are. Immersive reader, it reads aloud to you. So obviously helpful, we've got headsets on, but if you're at home, that's also fine. And this I've given you an example of where it's in Word. So in Word, you go along and look for the view menu, but it does exist it's definitely in Outlook, is in PowerPoint as well. I'm not so sure about Excel. Don't know how well it will read in Excel, but definitely in Word and PowerPoint it works. The way you go to is the view menu. It then brings up this ribbon and you're looking for the big button that says immersive reader. It's got the little kind of audio icon on it. And from there, your whole screen will change, and this is the only toolbar you'll have. It's worth pointing out that the letters and whatever text you have on your screen will start to spread out because it's making it easier to read, making it more accessible. So what's that toolbar all about then? Key one you're going to use is read aloud. So when you press read aloud, you then get another little toolbar talking you through, allowing you to play, pause and go back. So that's going to control how fast that document is read aloud to you. You'll see on that toolbar there's other choices as well. There's things like page color, really helpful. Make the background green because that makes it much easier to read rather than the white background. Text spacing, so you can have it spread out more or less. And then when you look on the little mini toolbar, oh, sorry, I thought I had it highlighted, but I don't. That little mini toolbar's got a settings icon, and that settings icon will change the speed of the person speaking. You can have Hazel, Susan, or George, so you can change who is speaking to you. And it will also highlight the words as it's speaking, and that can be just one word, the sentence, the paragraph. So again, so helpful for the students we're working with who are given a document, read this, write that, do this, and like, oh, it's just too much. Allow them to use Immersive Reader, and it'll really help them be able to access that work. Now, somebody asked me the other day, what do I do if it's a PDF? Well, at the moment, we don't have the ability to use Immersive Reader in PDF, so there is a bit of a workaround. Sorry about my scrawly writing, I was trying to do it on my screen. Simply with a PDF, you need to save it. So I've opened a PDF and clicked on the little download button, and it's asked me to save it. Fine. Next steps, you then open Word, open the PDF, and now you're back in the familiar territory. You're back in Word where you would normally be using it. You may get a few questions saying, oh, this PDF may not open correctly in Word, or Word may not import it correctly. Just say, OK, still go through, and the text will come through. Really handy for things like worksheets where the teacher will provide it as a PDF. At least you've got a way to make it accessible to them. OK. So what I'm going to do now is take you back to Teams and talk about how these tools work when we're in Teams. It's all well and good having them, but we still need them when we're in our live lessons. So when we're in Teams, you've got your messaging box. You can obviously see there, I click as if I'm about to type a message. If I just do Windows H, dictation kicks in and off I go. I say my message verbally. Don't worry though, you might be thinking, but it's a live lesson and they don't want to be heard. And what happens then if the teacher's talking? Don't worry about any of that. The teacher can be talking. The student can be on mute. And obviously you've seen yourselves, you've got the little mute icon, so you know you're definitely on mute. But when you do Windows H and you start talking, your device will still record your voice. We've tested it loads of times with students and other TAs to make sure we had the right combination, but it definitely does work. So you just need to make sure you have clicked on where you want the message to go. Windows H, start speaking. Windows H to stop. And then the message that you've said will appear in that message box, and obviously physically click send for it to go. This can be really handy as some students might be slower to actually just jump into the messaging and start typing, or they might think, oh, I know what I want to say, but maybe I don't know how to spell that correctly. And then there's that barrier of, well, if I'm spelling it wrong and everyone can see I've spelt it wrong and, oh, I'm not sure. So hopefully this will be something that makes it a little bit easier for them to stay engaged and to stay responding. We also know that a lot of students don't want to speak verbally, don't want to unmute and actually have their voice heard. But this is a way around that to allow them to still be part of the lesson. OK, that's our dictate. The next one was the Immersive Reader. Immersive Reader does work in Teams, as I said. It's just worth pointing out it pops open as a new screen, and that can be a bit confusing, or it can be another layer for students to have to deal with. So I'm going to show you how it works and then you'll see. So there's a message under there. This is me dictating. A little bit boring, I'm afraid. When you take the mouse and you hover over that, then what it will do is you've got the three little dots. When you click on the three dots, then you can see you've got Immersive Reader. So when they click on Immersive Reader, this is what they're going to see. And I'll show you. A new window will appear. OK, not a problem, because what it's done is it's spread that text out. It's made it visible just to them. But bear in mind, the first thing it's going to do is read that text at the top. It's going to read aloud, Abby Fullock at Thursday, 28th January. So just be aware of that. If they're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. So you might want to take your mouse and just click on where the message begins. Obviously, there's a play button to actually hear it. It won't start playing straight away. You need to press the play button for it to start. And then at the top right corner, you have got a few extra options up there. There is the speed, what it's going to highlight. There's a few different settings in there to be aware of. And then that little arrow, oh, wrong one, that little arrow there will then exit, close that actual immersive reader screen and bring you back into the live lesson. Just to be clear, the live lesson continues. Just that one box appears for immersive reader, and then they can just close it and it takes them back to all the other messages. Now, I know in some lessons it can be really quick. The messages are pinging and pinging and pinging and pinging, and they haven't got a chance to read everything. So it's probably not suitable to use it all the time, but could be really suitable if there's a set of instructions or a set of information that they then have to process as well. That's when the immersive reader can come in handy. Now, the last thing that's on my screen is turn on live captions. So if you're the presenter, oh, I've just realised I didn't even do it myself. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Here we go. I'm just going to turn on the live captions that I said I was going to have. So turn on live captions should now on your screen show the live captions of the lesson. And that can be super, super helpful for any students that might just need that extra prompt, or find that if they don't have a visual on the teacher and be able to see them speaking, then at least they've got something there which can be helpful for them. I haven't actually used it a huge amount, so it's a little distracting for me. I can sort of see it scrolling on the page, and I'm finding that a bit of a distraction. So be aware it's there, and be aware there could be students that are going to benefit from that if they don't have, if they're going to find it's something they would expect to see, or if they can't visually see the teacher. Okay. Now, I'm conscious it is now nearly 10 to 4, and that is actually all of the things that I wanted to go through with you today. So we've gone over talking about how to be useful in the lesson with all the different chat options, copying and pasting things in, being the presenter. We've gone over breakout rooms and how you can be effective there with sharing, and then talked a little about our accessibility tools. I'm just going to pop back into the messaging and see if anybody has anything extra that they wanted to ask. Oh, yes, thank you so much. Immersive Reader allows you to auto-translate to various languages. Yes, oh, very good. Thank you so much for adding that in there. So Lisa, yes, thank you. I did spot that when I was playing around with it earlier on. Yes, it has got a translation tool. So if that's going to be useful for others that need that, thank you. Really helpful. Okay, so I don't actually have anything more I want to add at the moment, but I am happy if people want hands up and want to ask anything. But before we do any more, I do have a little form that I need you to complete, a little feedback